all of us have our own beliefs, our own opinions, our own ideas of how the world should be, of how we should live our lives, of how the government should work, whatever it is. But ultimately, what we have to understand about ourselves and about other people is that people are big believers in what they believe. What does that mean? Well, I think that means that people will stick by what they believe in, and it's really hard to convince others that their beliefs are invalid when they truly believe that that is the answer, that whatever they believe in, their opinion, their belief system, their ideas about the world, whatever they believe in is the truth. And it's really hard to convince people that their opinions may be harmful to others, that maybe certain opinions inflict harm on others. And it's very difficult to convince someone else that what they believe might be a bit closed-minded. And that is not to say that there are people exempt from being caught up with their beliefs, being caught up with their ideas, being caught up with their perceptions about life. We're all trapped in our own unique biases. We are all trapped by and blinded by certain illusions that we're completely unaware of because we're blindfolded by them. We're in the cave. We're in Plato's cave, so to speak. So all of us, when we recognize that all of us are stuck in our own unique illusion, you begin to have more sympathy, or at least an understanding of others, why they would stick by certain beliefs that don't seem conducive to society. It makes sense because maybe you've stuck by certain beliefs that are not conducive to society or conducive to yourself. Maybe past habits, past flaws that were affecting other people, like maybe your attitude or just things that were not helpful. Maybe you drank a little too much, or maybe you did substances that harmed your being, whatever it is. We've all been guilty. We've all been victims of becoming blinded by our illusions. So we shouldn't be surprised when we see others caught up in their illusions, when we can, from an outside perspective, you can tell that they're either being deceived by people they look up to, or they willingly want to continue to believe these beliefs because they believe that they bring freedom, if that makes sense. Those beliefs bring freedom to them and bring truth. So all of us are guilty of it in one way or another. Maybe to different degrees, but we still partake in that, you can say, in that habit where we fall short to a certain extent, where we get caught up in our belief systems. And sometimes we discover that those belief systems aren't conducive, but since you've been in that ideology for so long, it's so hard to break out of it, because you would break out of your safety, you would break out of your posse. right? And that's very difficult for some people to do, even though they may not believe what they used to believe, because they've discovered that some of the things that they were taught were lies, or it was inaccurate in some way. And so I guess what I'm trying to say in this video is that try and have understanding for those people that are caught up and wrapped up in their belief systems that don't make sense, that are not conducive to society, that may be harmful to them and may be harmful to other people. Try and understand them, that they have their own experiences, they have their own past experiences that have led them to come to these conclusions. And they're wrapped up in their illusions. And the only way these people can break out of this, or rip off the blindfold, take the blindfold off, the only way that can happen is if they're honest with themselves. Once they have discovered that a certain opinion or a certain perspective isn't conducive, that's when being honest with yourself comes in. You have to be honest and say, okay, I was wrong. You have to have humility and be able to admit that at a certain point in your life, you had a certain perspective that maybe wasn't conducive. And that can be, maybe you were a little manipulative, or egotistical, or selfish, or intimidating, or scathing, or it could be the opposite way. Maybe you were a pushover, or you allowed yourself to be treated in a way that wasn't respectful for you. And so you have to begin to admit to yourself that you made a mistake and that you were wrong, and that takes humility. And then once you've discovered that your past ideas were maybe not the most conducive, you can start exploring different options, different points of view that align more with your own values. So what I'm trying to say is having an understanding of our neighbor when we don't agree with them, and understanding that we're all in our own way caught up with illusions, blinded by illusions that we have no idea about until we're honest with ourselves and we're willing to take that blindfold off. We're all guilty of being blind in some way, shape, or form, having a blind spot in our life. So having an understanding, and just because other people don't understand doesn't mean you can't. Or I should say it this way. Just because other people don't want to understand doesn't mean that you should allow that to stop you from trying to understand the other side and having sympathy for them. So that's my thoughts. Kind of a ramble today, but yeah, I hope it made sense. Peace and love. See you next time.